Part 25. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 241. Sagimoto Shiro disappeared, and he had been missing for a whole week. There was no news about him anywhere, and even Sana began to worry. Where did he go? The blow, is it really that big? Yeah, you touched the tip of his nose in a funny way. Although Kang Na, who was sitting in front of him, still had a serious expression as usual, the charming feeling between the girl's eyebrows could not be hidden. Ever since he turned the girl in front of him into a woman, you can be said to have been singing every night. It seems that demons are very open when it comes to sex. Rias didn't say anything, and Kang Na, who was completely relaxed, also brought Yayu farewell. Such enjoyment. The power of original sin in Yayu's body does need to be vented regularly, but now Yayu feels that he has done some venting, even his waist is a little aching. If Rias knew about it, she would definitely not lose to Sana with her character. If the two of them got together then, she would always feel in danger. Yayu rubbed his chin with this thought, while Kang Na spoke again on the other side. Yayu, where do you think he will go? Could he have? Sana didn't say the next words, because the girl knew what it meant. Are you lost? There is no need to feel guilty, Kang Na Yayu on the side spoke softly. There is nothing wrong with admiring the master and having beautiful fantasies about her. Any normal man will have unrealistic fantasies about a perfect girl like you, Kana. But fantasies are still fantasies after all. If you don't know your identity and are not willing to act as a soldier, you will eventually get lost. As you said, aren't you also a soldier? Kang Na shook his head amusedly, while Yayu smiled indifferently. I'm different, I'm a soldier, but I'm destined to become a king. There were some treacherous words in his mouth, but Kang Na didn't care at all. Instead, he was deeply shocked by the domineering power revealed in Yayu's words. Yes, my soldier, you will eventually become the king. Sana, be careful these days. Although I don't know if Shiroshigen is lost now, but if he is lost and gains strength at any cost, there is no doubt that the first person to come looking for him will be you. Yayu said to Kang Na with some worry. Don't underestimate me. I'm the sister of the Demon King Leviathan. Do you really think I'm just a cute young lady? Kang Na disagreed with Yayu's reminder. At the same time, Sana also had a trace of luck in his heart. Maybe, Shiroshigen was not lost. He just hid in a place where no one could find him to calm down, right? Perhaps when he calms down and figures it out, he will return to his side and continue to be his loyal soldier. Because she had agreed to go to church to help Elsa, Sana left alone when school was over. Although Elsa lives in Rias's house, she still insists on going to the church to clean the house every day. Because of the priest's death, Aisha was the only one taking care of the dilapidated church. Although she became a demon, it is obvious that the girl still remembers her faith. This made Rias a little helpless, but she didn't stop the girl from doing this, she just reminded her to be careful. After all, the church is God's territory. If a devil comes in and out, sooner or later something will happen. It's going to rain. Halfway there, dark clouds gathered quietly. Yayu raised his head and looked at the completely gloomy sky. Thinking of Aisha who was alone in the church, he couldn't help but speed up his pace. In the rain, the uniforms of Kyo Academy were shaking rustlingly. The rain was so heavy that even the sky was covered, and the field of view was very narrow. It was impossible to see clearly from a distance of 5 meters. However, such a downpour did not wet Yayu's body at all. The rainwater near him solidified into ice in an instant, and then the pen fell, and after landing on the ground, it melted and turned into water again. Of course, there was no pedestrian visible on the street, not to mention that Yayu was walking on a very remote path leading to a suburban church. Poof! A sound different from the rain came. What appeared in front of Yayu's eyes was a priest. A person who wears a silver cross on his chest and speaks the name of the abominable god. Blood oozed from the priest's abdomen. The priest vomited a mouthful of blood and fell down on the spot. Crunch, crunch, the sound, like something chewing food, sounded in the rain. Yayu frowned slightly. The sound made people feel disgusting. The blood was flowing slowly, and the body of the priest who fell to the ground was dragged by an invisible shadow in the rain curtain, and then slowly disappeared. The priest's body was eaten by something. Gg, the creepy laughter came from behind the rain curtain, and the surrounding atmosphere became weird, with a dangerous atmosphere permeating the air, which was murderous intent. Eyebrows slightly lowered, Yayu smiled silently. What are you expecting? Are you expecting a look of fear on my face, Shiro Samoto? Yayu spoke slowly, and the laughter coming from the rain suddenly stopped, as if it was cut off by an invisible hand. He, you are much calmer than I thought. That's right. If you are so scared that you pee your shit out, then there is no point in it, a hoarse voice rang out, causing the black figure behind him to relax. Slowly approached Yayu. It was no longer the familiar boyish voice, as if the vocal cords had been cut. There was a harsh, grinding sound. Originally, I thought you had gained strength and couldn't wait to show it off to Kang Na. Unexpectedly, you were curled up in a place like this like a lost dog. That's right. What kind of face do you have in this ugly look now? Where's Mian-sana? After looking at Shiro Shijin, who had fully revealed his appearance, Yayu said with a sarcastic smile. What do you know? Such a powerful body and such wonderful power, how can it be described as ugly? The Shiro Shijin in front of him, or it would be more appropriate to describe him as a monster. The left half of the body still looks like a human being, but the right side is covered with disgusting flesh and meridians. The squirming and rubbing flesh seems to be alive, and sticky blood is constantly dripping down. Especially the arms. Shiro's right arm is simply larger than his entire body. He holds a sword on the completely ferocious alien arm. The extremely rich sacred aura made Yayu frown slightly. He felt an uncomfortable feeling. This sword seemed to have great restraint on him. No. It's not about him, maybe it should be said that it's a great restraint on the devil. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 242. Feeling the unpleasant aura coming from the sword, Yayu also figured out what the sword was. The holy sword that is fatal to demons, Excalibur. But at this moment, this weapon that is fatal to demons is incredibly held in the hands of a demon. So that's it, you gave away the artifact in your body and got this sword in exchange, right? Yayu said with a slight frown. Shiro Shijin's body originally contained the artifact Black Dragon's Vein, but now the aura of Black Dragon's Vein has disappeared. Ha, stop pretending to be calm, you are already trembling with fear. This is the holy sword, Excalibur. It is like a deadly poison to the devil, the breath alone is already too much for you to bear. Come on, Shiro Shijin laughed like a madman. Following his expression, the right half of his body rolled like boiling lava, and disgusting pustules bulged, surged, and exploded. Thick pus and blood spread on the ground and were quickly washed away by the rain. Afraid? Why aren't you afraid? What's that expression on your face? I already have extremely powerful power. I will kill you and tear you into pieces. Unfortunately, it was the expression Shiro Shijin expected to see. It did not appear on Yayu's face. What he saw was still the indifferent and emotionless eyes. Why betray Sana? Yayu didn't show any reaction to Shijin Shiro's provocation, he just asked softly. As soon as he opened his mouth, Shiro Shijin's face suddenly showed an expression of great pain. He looked at Yayu like a wounded and angry beast. I didn't. I didn't betray the president, I loved her. Deeply in love with her. What do you know? You guy who came out of nowhere, How do you understand my love for her? President's love. In response to Shijin Shiro's hysterical roar, Yayu slightly rolled his eyelids and responded softly. Oh. This ordinary response seemed to be a huge insult, making Shiro's already distorted face become even more horrifying. It shouldn't be like this, it shouldn't be like this. The president should belong to me, it's all you, the guy who appeared out of nowhere. Without you, the president and it will definitely go back to the way it was before. Yes, that's right. As long as you disappear, then I will return to the president with renewed strength. We will get along with each other as before, and then the president will fall in love with me little by little. Give birth to the fruit of love with me, and then I will marry President Fengzi. Listening to Shiro muttering to himself like a madman, Yayu's expression still did not change at all. Perhaps it was indeed as he said, the past between him and Sana, and his feelings for Sana, he had no idea at all. Understood, but so what? None of this has anything to do with him, and he has no need to understand it. Even Kang Na himself doesn't know about this feeling. It's just a secret love. I don't have the courage to say it out, I don't have the courage to confess. Now here I am plausibly talking about how much I love the other person, don't you think it's funny? A sarcastic smile appeared on Yayu's lips. He did not tell the other party such a big reason, because it was obviously meaningless to say these things now. Yayu didn't know what state Shiro Shijin was in now, but he knew that he would never come back. Now all Yayu can do is kill him to get him out of his current painful state. By the way, I forgot to tell you one thing. During the time you left, Kana has become my woman. Looking at Shiro Shijin in front of him, Yayu spoke in such an extremely bad way with a faint smile. The remaining sanity because of Sana instantly fell apart because of Yayu's words. The boy roared, the holy sword Excalibur flipped in the rain, and lit up with a dazzling white light. Shiro Shijin rushed towards him like a wild beast. Yayu stood there motionless. The rain seemed to be falling more and more rapidly. Looking at Shiro Shijin who was rushing straight towards him, Yayu narrowed his eyes slightly. The rapidly falling rain lines turned into sharp ice blades in an instant, piercing into Shiro Shijin's twisted, monster-like body. A series of blood splashed on the rotten body. The blood dissolved in the rain and was washed away in an instant, leaving no trace. The ice blades in the sky couldn't even hinder Shijin Shiro's charge. The next moment, the boy's oppressive monster body approached Yayu's side, and the holy sword Excalibur in his hand was raised high. He slashed at Yayu fiercely. The holy sword Excalibur, which is like poison to demons, only affects Yayu with discomfort and disgust. At the moment when the holy sword Excalibur is slashed, the cold breath condenses in Yayu's palm. A pitch-black giant sword appeared out of thin air and blocked the slash. The two long swords collided in the continuous rain, and all the splashes turned into fine ice blades, which immediately flew towards Shiro Shijin's eyes. Ugh! With almost no resistance, Sagimoto Shiro's face was stabbed into a hornet's nest. Although his monster-like body had almost no reaction to such an attack, and the wound he had just been pierced by the ice pick healed quickly, it was obvious that his face, which still maintained a human appearance, was very fragile. The monster-like arm was still holding the holy sword Excalibur, while the human-like arm on the other side was covering his face. Shiro Shimamoto screamed and retreated step by step, while Yayu took a leisurely stroll step by step. Generally come forward. How stupid, don't you know, in this kind of weather, this is my home court. How far my strength can be exerted, even I can't estimate it. Yayu said this, chuckled, and then slowly raised his hand. The rain curtain that was rushing down solidified in an instant, and then all condensed into ice. Dreamlike waves spread gently from Yayu's back, and all the rain had disappeared. Behind him, flying down towards Shijin Shiro, were ice javelins that were more than 1 meter long. The number of numbness on the human scalp is at least in the thousands. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 243. Yayu's ability is Frost, but even so, Yayu's frost is not conjured out of thin air. If you want to have ice, you naturally need water, and this water is the water vapor floating in the air. So on such a night of pouring rain and plenty of steam, Yayu is absolutely invincible. Yayu, who was able to turn the clouds and rain with every move he made, feeling the joyful power at his fingertips, now even had the pride in his heart to fight the Demon King. The frightening cold air seemed to freeze time. Yayu stared at the wailing monster in front of him with cold eyes. He just killed him and let Kang Na never find him. Maybe for him, it was still, is this a good thing for Sana? Seeing Shiro Shijin like this, she will definitely feel sad and blame herself. Thoughts stayed in my heart like spring water. Time was restored in an instant. The downpour continued to sprinkle on the earth, and the blade moved faster than the rain. The sharp ice blades made of ice were densely spread throughout the sky, like thousands of sharp arrows falling to the earth. On the other side, Shiro Shimoto did not react as he was swallowed up by the rain of thousands of spear blades, without even a chance to escape. After his body was transformed, he suddenly gained a huge power that he had never imagined before. This would also give him an illusion that he was very powerful and invincible. In particular, the strengthening of the body without fear of swords will also give him the illusion that he can block all attacks with his powerful body. Because of these misunderstandings, Shiro Shijin's eyes were injured the moment he and Yayu fought, and it also led to his current ending. Yayu looked quietly in front of him. The scene of destruction was gorgeous, with bright red flowers blooming in the night. At first, Sagimoto Shiro was able to roar like a wild beast. Later, the roar was completely silent. The only thing that could be heard was the sound of ice blades falling continuously through the ground. When the rain that had stagnated for a moment fell again, a jungle built of ice blades had already been erected in front of Yayu. Ice blades more than 1 meter long stood intricately in front of Yayu, and the target of these ice blades, where Shiro Shijin was originally, no longer had any breath of life. Silently looking at the pile of mud-like things that were nailed to the ground, these black and red substances were really washed into the sewer bit by bit with the heavy rain. When the rain stopped, there shouldn't be any traces left, right? Soon, the towering ice jungle melted away, and the discordant dark red color was washed away in the pouring rain. Except for a holy sword that shimmered with cold light, and the pits and pits. There is nothing left beyond the ground. Yayu stepped forward and gently pulled out the holy sword Excalibur that was stuck on the ground. A dull trembling sound sounded, and this weapon, which meant poison to the devil, trembled slightly in Yayu's hand. It's such an uncomfortable amount of power. Yayu muttered like this. He had heard Rias tell a story about the holy sword Excalibur, but it was a bit of an unpredictable fate to bump into it so soon. However, it seems that apart from making himself a little uncomfortable, the so-called demon slayer holy sword Excalibur does not seem to have the slightest impact on him as a demon like the fallen angel's javelin of light. Yayu couldn't help but think, is he really a demon? Ah, it's getting late. That girl Aisha must be waiting impatiently, right? Remembering that Aisha was still waiting for him, Yayu casually pinned the holy sword Excalibur to his waist and walked towards the suburbs. However, the holy sword Excalibur, which was so valued over there, actually ended up in this island country in the Far East. What's even more ridiculous is that it actually fell into the hands of the devil. I guess the Vatican has already exploded. Although I don't know who transformed Shimamoto Shiro and allowed him to freely use the holy sword, but the guy who mastered such technology must not be an ordinary person. It seems that he will be someone from the fallen angel side. After all, they are the only ones who would be interested in something like the Holy Sword. I don't bother to think about what the fallen angels are doing. Since I killed their important research results and took their Holy Sword, I guess they will follow them and deal with them at that time. They're fine. Thinking like this, the shadow of the church already appeared in Yayu's eyes. Aisha stood at the door of the church, seemingly waiting for Yayu. The moment she saw his figure appear, the girl couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, showing a saved expression. Yayu was slightly startled. It seemed that Aisha was not looking for him simply to clean the church. Aisha would indeed take the time to come here to clean, but on a rainy night like this, she still shouted that she must come to help. It was really strange to think about it. Oh, Mr. Yayu, you are finally here, otherwise Aisha wouldn't know what to do. What exactly happened? Yayu was slightly stunned and asked, while Aisha lowered her head and spoke helplessly. Well, the church sent someone here. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't dare to tell Sister Rias, so I had to come to you. Aisha said this, and Yayu showed a somewhat serious expression. Aisha, I know you are soft-hearted, but now that you are a demon, if the people sent by the church are enemies, you can only destroy them. But. Aisha's face suddenly showed a somewhat undecidable look, and at this moment Yayu keenly felt that in the wind and rain behind him, two auras that disgusted him were slowly approaching. This kind of aura was all too familiar to him. It was the unique aura of the Holy Sword Excalibur that he had snatched from Shiro Samoto not long ago. It's the Holy Sword again, and two more. Could it be that he is another transformed monster like Shiro Samoto? Yayu thought this, with a somewhat solemn look on his face, and took a few steps back while protecting Aisha. What's wrong, Mr. Yayu? Are you so serious all of a sudden? A guest is coming. As Yayu finished speaking, Aisha's eyes widened slightly. In the windy and rainy night, two figures wrapped in robes were walking over with difficulty. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 244. In addition to the Holy Sword Excalibur, there seemed to be two holy auras. After seeing the figure walking hard through the rain, Yayu's vigilance was slightly lowered. With a holy aura, it is certain that these two people are not transformed monsters like Shiro Shijin. It seems that they are from the Holy See? Aisha, when will the people from the Holy See arrive? It seems, that's how it has been in the past few days. That's it, I have to say that they are really dedicated, even with this kind of weather. Yayu shook his head in amusement. Yayu had basically determined the identities of the two people in front of him. Not surprisingly, they should be from the Holy See. Really, I've already taken a taxi with such a heavy rain. It's great now, I'm soaked all over. I also want to take a taxi, but where will the money come from? We can't even afford food. Listening to the two girls complaining as they walked, Yayu shook his head in amusement. They seemed to be two priests who lived a very difficult life. What a rare visitor. Is there anyone who would come to make a pilgrimage on a rainy night like this? Aisha hid behind Yayu with some fear, but Yayu could only act as a priest to welcome the two girls who arrived. It wasn't until he was illuminated by the light at the door of the church that Yayu saw clearly how the two girls were dressed. They were two girls wearing white nun-like robes. They didn't look like ordinary people who came to the church to worship. The believers seemed to be clergy from the main temple. Of course, the two girls are now soaked from head to toe, and their rain-soaked clothes cling tightly to their bodies, perfectly outlining the graceful body curves of the two girls, including the colors of their underwear. Visible. This breath is Excalibur. Why is Excalibur in your hands? The moment she discovered Yayu, the beautiful girl with short dark blue hair said coldly. After raising his head, Yayu could clearly see a strand of highlighted green hair on the girl's forehead, and behind her was a huge object wrapped in a white strip of cloth. The holy sword Excalibur was stolen by the fallen angels. Has this church become the stronghold of the fallen angels? As she said to herself, the girl with short dark blue hair reached out to grab the huge object wrapped behind her back. It seemed that it was her holy sword Excalibur. Apparently the girl had regarded Yayu as an accomplice of the fallen angel who stole the holy sword Excalibur. Ahem, Zenovia-chan, don't be so excited. At least you should understand the situation clearly. The girl next to Zenovia panicked and held down her irritable partner. This is a girl with a small maroon twin-tail hair. Different from the indifference on Zenovia's face, this girl looks particularly smart and cheerful. I'm really sorry for that late night visit. I am Irina Purple, and this one here is Genova. We are holy swordsmen sent by the Holy See to find the lost holy sword Excalibur. After holding down his companion, named Zaiteng, Irina smiled at Yayu. Holy sword user. This title made Yayu slightly stunned, but on the other hand, Zenovia obviously didn't trust Yayu very much. Okay, Irina, it's not yet certain whether they are from the fallen angels' side. If I remember correctly, the person in charge of this church should be fried. Now that the priest is not here, who knows? Was he killed by this guy in front of me? Unlike Irina Wisteria, who is very mature, the girl named Zenovia is extremely calm. It has to be said that the girl's intuition is very keen. At least Fried was indeed killed by Yayu. Where did the holy sword Excalibur in your hand come from? Answer my question. I picked it up. Yayu shrugged and said. Nonsense. In response to Yayu's perfunctory answer, an angry Zenovia stepped forward and almost touched Yayu. As the girl stepped forward, Yayu subconsciously took a deep breath, feeling the fragrance of the girl and the fresh smell left by the rain. The black one goes well with your personality. His eyes subconsciously fell on the girl's chest. Yayu said this casually, and the latter's face instantly turned red. You are a lecher. In shame and anger, Zenovia looked like she was about to draw her sword again, but was held down by Irina Wisteria again. Hala, can Zenovia stop being so excited and let her speak clearly? With a wry smile and holding down her bad-tempered companion, Zaiteng Irina bowed slightly towards Yayu. I'm really sorry. That's just the character Zenovia has. That one over there should be Sister Elsa, right? I am. Aisha nodded lightly. To be honest, the girl felt very guilty now. She had become a demon now, and Father Fried was indeed killed by Yayu. Excuse me, can we go in first? I'm really uncomfortable being wet. Please come in. Aisha nodded, and immediately moved out of the way with Yayu, allowing the two girls to enter the church. During this period of time, although Zenovia was being held down by Irina Zaiteng, the girl was still obviously not in a good mood. She didn't forget to glare at Yayu when she walked into the church. Excuse me, where is the washing place? We would like to take a shower and change our clothes. Please come with me and I will take you there. Aisha said this, and Irina Wisteria nodded, pulling Zenovia and Aisha towards the back of the hall, while Yayu closed the church door on the other side. Now, what should we do? These two girls are obviously from the church, and they can carry the holy sword Excalibur as a weapon, so they must be of high status. For Yayu and Aisha, who are demons, the other party must be their enemy, so do they want to kill them? Yayu didn't feel guilty because the other party was a girl, but considering Aisha's mood, he finally gave up the plan. After all, Elsa was once a nun, and killing two priests in front of her was just a bit too much. For the time being, let's take a look at what they are here to do. If possible, it would be better to avoid conflict as much as possible. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 245. After the two girls finished washing and changed into the nuns' uniforms in the church, the four of them sat in the hall again. Zenovia and Irina Wisteria each held a cup of tea that Elsa had just made, and they were warming themselves up with happy faces at this moment. I finally came to life again. I almost didn't freeze to death. Irina narrowed her eyes and said this with a happy face, while Zenobia on the side frowned again after seeing Yayu. Didn't I just see the color of your bra? As for the look of such hatred? Yayu touched the tip of his nose helplessly, and the atmosphere between the four people became somewhat silent for a moment. What is the purpose of two holy swordsmen visiting our small church late at night? Finally, Yayu was the first to break the silence, and when he heard him speak, Zenobia, who was sitting there, couldn't help it. Humph. I think you are the minion of the fallen angel. You killed Father Fried and took possession of this nun. Am I right? Zenobia sneered and lifted the cloth on the giant object around him. What was revealed in front of everyone was a huge long sword called Excalibur, the holy sword of destruction. Calm down, Genova, I told you that I haven't figured it out yet. After watching her partner reveal their weapons, Irina Wisteria also anxiously took out her Excalibur. It was something like a belt, and then transformed into a sword in Irina's hands. Excalibur mimic. It is an Excalibur that can change its form freely. Oh, what evidence do you have to prove that I killed Father Fried and took possession of her? Yayu shook his head in amusement after listening to what Zenobia said, and he hugged the guilty AI beside him. Pshaw. It is absolutely unacceptable to feel guilty at this time, so just refuse to admit it. Anyway, only he and Elsa know about Fried's death. Elsa will never tell, and neither will she. They will never know how Fried died. Stop hiding it. If you didn't do it, why would you show up in the church? Why is this nun so afraid of you? And you still have the holy sword Excalibur in your hand, Zenobia said coldly. I told you, I don't know what the holy sword is. I picked it up. As for why Aisha listens to me so much, it's because I'm her boyfriend. Yayu hugged Aisha and spoke so confidently, while Aisha lowered her head, her little face turning even redder. Is that so, Sister Elsa? Zenobia stared at Yayu with suspicion, but when she asked, Aisha raised her head in panic. Ah, yes, it's like this, that. Okay, I believe for the moment that you are not a fallen angel. Elsa's reaction couldn't be more obvious, she looked like a stupid girl in love. Zenobia said with some dissatisfaction, rewrapped the Excalibur in her hand, and sat down. Irina on the side also sighed in relief and sat down. Well, I've already said it, Zenobia-chan, don't be so excited all the time. Let's find out the situation first. While watching the atmosphere temporarily calm down, Irina also put away her Excalibur and said happily. Even so, please tell me clearly about the origin of the Excalibur in your hand, because it is very important and related to the mission of Irina and I coming to this country, Zenobia continued to ask after calming down. Is this, one day I saw a demon killing a priest with this weapon, so I killed the demon and took Excalibur away. Yayu said this, and then showed an expression as if he had remembered something. Oh, by the way, that priest seems to be the Father Fried you mentioned. Are you kidding? How can a demon touch Excalibur? Zenobia had an expression of disbelief on her face, and Irina on the other side had the same expression. Who says demons can't touch Excalibur? I am a demon, Yayu said with a smile. This joke is not funny at all. How could you be a demon? Irina couldn't help but smile as she looked at the Excalibur in Yayu's hand. Excalibur is as poisonous to demons. Just getting close will be hurt by the aura, so how could it be held by a demon like this? Don't believe it, then there's nothing you can do. It seems like you have to prove it with something substantial, Yayu said and shrugged, and immediately an extremely evil force emitted from his body. Come out. This is the power that belongs to the sins of this world, but now it is quite similar to using it as a guest devil. Yayu just needs to tell the two girls that the guy holding the holy sword is an evil demon. Believe it now. Seeing the two girls whose expressions changed drastically and became alert, Yayu said with a chuckle. Although it was unbelievable, This evil force that made them feel like they were facing a formidable enemy could only be the devil. The truth of the matter was so absurd and unbelievable. A demon was sitting in front of them, holding the holy sword Excalibur, safe and sound. Merciful Lord, what is going on? Why is the demon completely unafraid of Excalibur's brilliance? It must be because Mr. Yayu was forced to become a demon, but his devout faith in the Lord still exists, so even if he holds Excalibur, he will not be harmed. Purple Tou Irina said seriously as he spoke. He clasped his hands together with unmoved expression. My lord, you are so kind. Although your body has fallen, as long as your heart and soul have not fallen, you will still be your believer. By the way, what is going on? Girl, why are you crying? Is it necessary to be so moved? Yeah, you looked speechlessly at Irina, who was praying and then crying. I have decided, Mr. Yayu, you must be in pain. Your devout faith is imprisoned in the body of the devil and cannot be liberated. You have been searching hard for salvation, but you cannot find relief. Ye, with tears on his face. Lena cried and raised her holy sword. Let my Excalibur help you destroy that filthy body, so that you can be freed. Hey, why did you suddenly go crazy? Yayu was stunned for a moment, then hugged Aisha and dodged to the side, and then the bench where they were sitting was suddenly under the edge of the holy sword. Turned into pieces. Mr. Yayu, you must be in pain. Don't worry, your pain will be relieved with just a moment. The crying girl holding the holy sword looked at Yayu, whose mouth was twitching, with hazy eyes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 246. So, does everyone in the Holy See have brain problems? Looking at Irina, who looked moved and was crying, and kept swinging the sword towards him, Yayu had a sad look on his face. When the girl waved the holy sword again and slashed at Yayu, Yayu did not dodge anymore, but raised the holy sword in his hand to fight back. The two slender holy swords collided together, making a clear and sweet sound. If you are joking, this is the end of it. Holy sword user, if you attack again, as a soldier of the Gremory family, I will kill you. Are you a soldier of the Gremory family? Hearing what Yayu said, Irina was slightly stunned and stared at him in surprise. Are you that powerful soldier? Your presence caused the angel to appear directly, so that the people in the church should pay more attention to you. The angel also said that if there is a chance, he must kill you at all costs, a young man with unlimited future potential. Demon. As Zenobia said this, the look he stared at Yayu became as dangerous as a wild beast. Oh, so I'm already so famous. Zenovia's words made Yayu slightly stunned. The angel actually appeared directly and even named him to kill him. As for Genova's murderous intention, Yayu simply chose to turn a blind eye because Genova and Irina were too weak, and they were probably not as powerful as Shiroshigen, whom he had solved not long ago. The reason why the two girls are so confident is simply because of the power of the Holy Sword. The Holy Sword's overwhelming and terrifying suppression of demons allows them to easily defeat demons that are stronger than them. If they encountered a monster like Shiroshigen who was not afraid of the Holy Sword and could even use the Holy Sword, the two girls would probably be killed easily. And Yayu could easily kill a monster like that. If he wanted to kill these two girls, it wouldn't be too easy for him. Even now, Yayu can still freeze the blood in the bodies of the two girls in front of him with a single thought, causing them to die miserably. But it was obvious that Zenobia was not aware of this. The girl stared at Yayu with dangerous eyes, as if she was planning to take action at any time. Genova, calm down and don't forget our mission. Irina on the side once again grabbed her companions. For them, finding the stolen holy sword was the most important thing. I know. Zenovia nodded lightly, and the strength gathered in his body quickly dissipated. Soldier of the Gremory family, although I am very reluctant, I have to say that you are very lucky. Of course, I don't want to kill anyone in front of Aisha. We are two pretty girls, so you are quite lucky. Yayu unceremoniously returned the girl's arrogant declaration, making Zenovia very angry. This arrogant guy dared to underestimate himself so much. Did he really think he didn't dare to kill him? The order from the headquarters stated that even the Demon King's sister could be killed directly at the critical moment. Zenovia thought coldly, if Yayu knew what she was thinking, he would definitely laugh out loud because of the girl's innocence. There are always so many ignorant and naive guys in this world. In that case, could you please help us introduce him tomorrow? We must discuss this matter with the eldest lady of the Gremory family. Zenovia said this, Yayu nodded, and immediately the two girls went to the room behind the church to rest. Regarding the two girls' behavior of directly treating this place as their base, Yayu touched the tip of his nose in a funny way. In a sense, there is no problem. If this church is not a place for the two priests, is it still a place for the two demons, myself and Aisha? A night of silence. After school the next day, all members of the Supernatural Research Department gathered in the department room. Sitting opposite Genova and Irina was Rias with a serious face. Rias valued this meeting very much. After all, this was a meeting between the two camps of the church and the devil. All the family members except Rias stood respectfully behind. Akeno and Konako had serious expressions because they understood the importance of the matter, while Aisha looked confused. Kiba. The gentle voice came to mind, causing the angry flames in Kiba-Yuto's eyes to dissipate. I'm sorry, President Kiba-Yuto lowered his head. I understand how you feel, but please be patient for now at least. Rias, who knew why Kiba-Yuto was so angry, spoke so earnestly, while Yayu on the other side was slightly curious. It seemed that Rias had said that the reason why Kiba signed a contract with him to become a demon was related to his religion, but he didn't know the specific situation. My name is Genova, and this is my partner, Wisteria Irina. Breaking the awkward atmosphere, Zenovia first introduced himself to everyone so coldly. Why did your church suddenly come to us? Although I have learned the general information from Yayu, the work on the surface still needs to be done well. Now Rias represents the devil camp. Naturally, we cannot be weak in front of the church people. Just a few days ago, the Holy Sword Excalibur, which is kept and managed by the Vatican, the headquarters of the Ecumenical Church, as well as the Protestant side and the Orthodox Church side, was snatched away. Zenovia slowly said something that was extremely surprising. Information. Humph, it doesn't matter if it was robbed. There is no need for things like that to exist. The person who spoke coldly was Kiba-Yuto standing behind him. Zenovia raised her head slightly and glanced up. From the beginning, she felt that the young man in front of her seemed to have great hatred for her and Irina. Then even if it was robbed, what does the robbed Excalibur have to do with this island country in the Far East? Rias still asked casually, drawing Zenovia's attention away from Kiba. Return. In the headquarters of the Ecumenical Church, there are two of them, including mine. There are also two of them among the Protestants. There are also two of the Orthodox Church. The remaining one was missing during the three-way war between God, demons, and fallen angels. After that, all they are fighting for Excalibur. The guy who took Excalibur fled to Japan, which is here. Zenovia explained the reason why they came to this country in a sullen tone. There are so many troublesome things, so who knows about the Snatcher? Rias sighed and said helplessly. The Holy Sword was undoubtedly snatched by the fallen angels and has been used for some kind of experiment, Zenovia said with a worried expression on his face. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 247. Experiment. Listening to what Zenovia said, yeah, you couldn't help but think of Shiro Shijin, who died in his hands last night. It seemed that he was the product of the so-called experiment, right? Allowing demons to freely use the holy sword is indeed an unimaginable technology. Not long ago, we also sent priests and exorcists to secretly infiltrate here, but they were all solved. Zenobia said this. It seemed that the poor priest who was killed by Shiro Samoto last night was the one they sent. So, you are here to ask for assistance. However, things were exactly the opposite of what Rias imagined, Zenobia said clearly. Our request is that the demons who dominate this town will not interfere at all in the battle for the king's sword between us and the fallen angels. In other words, we are here to ask you not to interfere in this matter. Rias raised her eyebrows upon hearing Zenovia's words. What you say is really arrogant. Is this a diversion? Don't you think we might be colluding with the fallen angels wanting to join forces to deal with the holy sword? Headquarters believes that this is not impossible. Rias's eyes flashed coldly, and she seemed quite angry. The enemy deliberately stepped into their territory and said as they pleased that they were not allowed to interfere with what they were doing. They also said that they were not allowed to join forces with other organizations. Otherwise, if we want to look good, it is absolutely impossible with Rias's self-esteem as a superior demon. Suck it up. Our senior leaders don't believe in demons and fallen angels. If the holy sword can be eliminated from the god camp, it should be a good thing for the demons, right? This matter is equally beneficial to you and the fallen angels, so it is not surprising even if we join forces. So let's throw a diversionary ball first. If you join forces with the fallen angels, we will completely eliminate you. Even if you are the sister of the Demon King, that's what my boss said. Zenobia was not afraid of Rias's eyes and her tone was quite calm. Since you know that I am the sister of the Demon King, it means that you are related to a high-ranking person of a certain level. In this case, I will say it bluntly. I will not join forces with a guy like a fallen angel. Absolutely not. I regard Gremory as I swear that I will never do anything to disgrace the Demon King. The two sides were in a stalemate. But Zenobia chuckled. Your words are enough. In short, we are here to inform the fallen angels about sneaking into this town with 3, or now 2, king's swords. Otherwise, if something happens, I, and the church headquarters you will be resented by many parties. As for assistance, there is no need. If you join forces with the God camp, even if it is only temporarily, it will affect the balance of power among the 3 parties. Not to mention you are the sister of the Demon King. After hearing Zenovia's words, Rias's expression softened slightly and she sighed. Where are the people sent by the Orthodox Church? Zenobia answered Ria's question. They won't get involved in this matter for the time being. Probably considering that Irina and I can't get the holy sword back, we plan to hold on to the last one. So it's just the 2 of you. Do you want to snatch the king's sword from the fallen angels' leaders with just the strength of 2 people? That's too reckless. Do you want to die? Rias looked very disapproving, but Irina Wisteria and Zenobia spoke with firm eyes. That's right. I'm the same as Irina, but I don't want to die if I can. Did you come to Japan with the awareness of death? Your beliefs are still as unreasonable as ever. Please don't look down on our faith, Rias Gremory. Right, Zenobia. Yes. And the church has decided that instead of allowing the Sword of Kings to be used by the fallen angels, it is better to destroy them all. Our mission is to at least eliminate the Sword of Kings in the hands of the fallen angels. In order to achieve our goal, we will not hesitate to die. The only thing that can resist the King's Sword is the King's Sword. Can just you 2 do it? Yes, of course, I don't intend to die in vain. Zenobia responded to Ria's question with a fearless attitude. You are very confident. Do you have any secret weapons? Well, whatever you think about it. After this back and forth, the 2 sides just stared at each other and the conversation broke off. Wisteria, Irina and Zenobia winked at each other and stood up. Then it's almost time for us to take leave. Irina, let's go back. Oh, don't you want a cup of tea? At least let us buy you some snacks. No need, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist killing him if I stay here for a second. Zenobia waved her hand, glanced at Yayu, and immediately rejected President Rias's invitation. Say, where did I offend you? Listening to what the girl said, Yayu still looked dumbfounded. He really couldn't understand why Irina was so hostile to him. There is no way, because your existence is too dangerous. If you are allowed to grow up, you will definitely threaten the entire Holy See. These are the original words of Lord Angel. Oh, do even angels know about Yayu's existence? Ria said this with some surprise. No matter how you look at her face, the expression on her face is quite proud. Don't worry, since I have made an agreement, I will not take action against any demons in the city. Of course, if there is a chance in the future, I will definitely kill your soldiers in an upright duel, and I will tell the entire underworld, and compared with the younger generation of the Holy See, you new demons are vulnerable. Yayu's brows raised. He was now curious if this girl's name was Genova Marisu. You've had enough. You've been pretending since last night. I put up with you for a long time last night, don't force me to do it. But just when Yayu was thinking this, and before he put his thoughts into practice, a sword sound came to his mind in the club room. What do you want to do? Irina said with a frown after waving the holy sword of mimicry in her hand to block Kibayuto's sudden attack. Take back what you just said. The long sword pointed coldly at Zenobia, and Kibayuto said in a cold voice. Perhaps he had been patient until now under the restraint of Rias, but when the hateful holy sword user in front of him insulted all of them, Kibayuto finally couldn't bear it anymore. The younger generation she was talking about was not just Yayu, it could be said to be all of them, including Rias. Who are you? Zenobia asked coldly. Kibayuto, Gremory's knight, was your senior in the past. Although he was a failure the moment he answered, countless ferocious magic swords appeared in the club room. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 248. Just when Yayu was about to shout, I've tolerated you for a long time, and take action to dampen the arrogance of Zenobia, Kibayuto beat him to it and said what he wanted to say. I see, are they the survivors of that plan? After listening to Kibayuto's words, Zenobia frowned slightly. You are also messengers of God, right? Then I want to ask, what is the reason for killing them all just because they are not suitable for the holy sword? The long sword pointed at Zenobia, Kibayuto roared loudly. That incident was indeed the church's negligence. Irina and I also hated that plan very much. All the remaining members have been exiled, Zenobia said. Ha ha, exile. What an exile. After killing so many innocent people, can a light exile erase all the sins? Can it erase everyone's hatred? It is truly a service to God. As for the messenger, his face hidden under the light is really ugly. Kiba, back off, you are too impulsive, Rias's displeased voice rang out. No, Minister, I am calm now. My current challenge is not because of the holy sword Excalibur, but because she insulted all of us. As the new generation devil in her mouth, I must make her pay for her words. The price, Kiba said slowly. Humph, is it a challenge? Naturally, we in the Holy See will not be afraid of you demons. Knowing that Kiba was talking about him, Zenobia borrowed it without fear. Hey, it's true. Rias shook her head helplessly, feeling very helpless about Kiba's decision. This unforgettable hatred has been in Kiba's heart for a long time, so maybe it would be a better choice for him to take this opportunity to vent it out, right? At the playground, because school had been out for a long time, naturally not all students stayed on campus. What rose up in front of everyone's eyes was a dark red barrier, and those facing each other within the barrier were Kiba and Zenobia. Genova, who was wearing a white robe, revealed the jet black tight-fitting combat uniform underneath. The jet black tights perfectly outlined the girl's curves, revealing the girl's valiant and heroic appearance. In Zenovia's hand was the holy sword of destruction brought from the Holy See. It was a very huge weapon that was completely inconsistent with the girl's delicate and small body. "What's Kiba's winning percentage?" Rias asked as she watched. "It's very low." Yayu shook his head. "The sword in Zenovia's hand is too restrained." Although what they said sounded uncomfortable, Zenovia and Irina Wisteria could indeed look down upon all the younger generation of demons. After all, the holy swords in their hands were too powerful to restrain the demons. "Is it very low?" Rias looked at the field worriedly. "The devil's body must not come into contact with the holy sword. Once it comes into contact, it will cause irreparable injuries. Even a small scratch will quickly expand all over the body in an instant, and then burn the demon to death." Kibayuoto had already activated his divine weapon, causing several magic swords to appear around him. Demon sword creation. You can create the magical sword that the person who owns the artifact has imagined in his mind. It is a unique existence even among the magical sword type artifacts. Zenovia said this, not sure if it was considered as an admiration. The sound of. But, since it is a demon sword, it is destined to be vulnerable to the holy sword Excalibur. After Zenovia said this, he did not give Kiba a chance to react, dragging the giant sword in his hand. A charge was launched. Kiba's body spun, and several magic swords appeared in front of him, and were immediately kicked out by him. Facing the magic sword that was speeding towards her, Zenovia had no intention of retreating. She just waved Excalibur in her hand and destroyed all the magic swords that were speeding towards her to block her movement. "My sword is specially strengthened in terms of destruction. There is nothing in this world that I can't cut." The speeding magic sword did not hinder Genova for even a second. The heroic girl waved the giant sword, and soon approached Kibayuoto. Clenching his teeth, the strong wind brought by the holy sword blew on his body, making Kibayuoto feel a burning sensation. If he was cut, he would probably lose his fighting power directly. Zenovia's attacks opened and closed, and the long sword raised to the sky slashed towards Kibayuoto. Kiba did not choose to resist forcefully, but backed away dangerously, avoiding the girl's blow. The failed holy sword struck the ground. There was a loud noise, and the entire playground shook. The dust around them flew up, and the gravel crackled like bullets on the dark red barrier. When the smoke and dust dispersed, what stood between Kibayuoto and Zenovia was a huge sunken cavity like a volcanic crater. "This is my Excalibur. It can destroy everything. The Holy Sword of Destruction is not a name for nothing." He waved a sword flower gracefully and carried the Holy Sword of Destruction behind his palm. Zenovia said domineeringly. Kiba showed a bitter expression when he saw this scene. The difference in weapons is so great that even a simple collision is not possible, so there is no point in defeating the opponent. And there are 7 Excaliburs like this in total. Sure enough, destroying them all is destined to be a sure path. But, how can you just admit defeat like this? If it is destructive. Ugh! Kibayuoto roared, and the huge object in his hand was outlined. It was a huge weapon that didn't know whether it should be called a sword. "The destructive power of the holy sword in your hand and the destructive power of my magic sword, let this blow decide the outcome." Kiba held the giant sword with both hands, thinking about Zenovia's tragic launch charge. Kiba started swinging his sword. He slashed at Zenovia, but she looked like she was letting out a sigh of genuine disappointment. "It's a pity. You made the wrong choice." Zenovia's cold voice sounded. Click. There was a violent metallic sound. The huge sword flew in the air, and the huge magic sword was cut off in an instant. Zenovia's Excalibur easily destroyed Kiba's magic sword without any damage. Your weapons are the colorful magic swords and speed. If you wield the giant sword, your arm strength is insufficient, and your speed will be blocked. In order to seek destructive power, According to your characteristics, that is redundant, right? Don't you even understand this? This blow will make you unable to move. After Zenobia finished speaking, she immediately turned the holy sword in her hand and mercilessly hit Kibayuoto with the hilt. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 249. Kibayuoto was completely out of strength, and it seemed that he could no longer dodge the girl's attack. Although it was just the hilt, it was the holy sword Excalibur after all, and just this level of contact was enough to render Kibayuoto incapacitated. However, the expected attack did not hit. The hilt of the holy sword hit the cold blade, which was a jet black and slender blade with fluidity. Yeah, classmate Yayu. Kibayuoto spoke with some difficulty as he raised his head to look at Yayu, who was standing in front of him at some point. He knew that he had lost, and he had lost completely. If Yayu hadn't suddenly appeared, he would have lost even more ugly. Yayu, don't be like this, we lost. Seeing Yayulia's making her own decisions, she also frowned slightly. If you lose, you lose. There is nothing to be ashamed of. After all, the opponent is holding the holy sword Excalibur, which is fatal to demons. Hey, do we still want to fight? We agreed that it's just a sparring match, and because of the restraint of the holy sword, we can't actually win. Irina on the side seemed to want to smooth things over, but Yayu had no intention of paying attention to her at all. Kiba, how do you think you lost? Yayu said softly, and the latter showed a somewhat bitter expression. I was too confident. During the battle with her, I abandoned my superior speed and wanted to wield uncontrollable power instead. The words Zenobia said over and over again echoed in Kibayuoto's mind, making the young man smile a little sadly. Yes, it's not stupid to know where you made a mistake so quickly. Regarding Kibayuoto's mistake of recognizing his mistake so quickly, Zenobia responded with a condescending attitude. Wrong, you lost because your weapons are not as good as others. Yayu's cold words not only made Kibayuoto look stunned, but also made Zenovia's proud expression freeze on his face. Just when the girl frowned slightly and wanted to retort, Yayu's eyes fell on her and he spoke sarcastically. The number one person of the younger generation? In my opinion, you two are nothing without the holy sword in your hands. Isn't there anything in this world that your holy sword can't cut down? That's right, there's nothing in this world that my holy sword of destruction can't cut down endlessly, Zenobia retorted without showing any signs of weakness. Without saying anything else, Yayu just flipped his wrist, pointing the dark magic sword that had blocked Zenovia's attack at the front towards the girl. The cold aura slowly spread through the barrier, and Zenobia frowned slightly. She seemed to be aware of the ominous nature of this weapon. Then let's try it and see whether your holy sword is more powerful or my magic sword. Seeing Yayu take out his divine weapon directly, as if he wanted to regain the situation for Kibayuoto, Rhea smacked her tongue slightly on this side. The giant sword in front of her could really be said to be an extremely terrifying weapon of disaster. The sword, even the flame of the phoenix, will be eclipsed in front of this magic sword. Since it is a magic sword, it will naturally not be the opponent of the holy sword. The soldier who has been noticed by the Lord Angel by name, let me see what is special about you. Seeing Yayu take the initiative to step forward, Zenobia also sneered disdainfully. She naturally kept the angel's words in mind. Although she couldn't kill the opponent directly, it was a good choice to take this opportunity to understand the opponent's strength. There was nothing fancy at all. Zenobia raised the holy sword of destruction and charged towards Nanaha. Just like the name of the holy sword of destruction, Zenovia's fighting posture with this extremely domineering holy sword is also a complete crushing one, which is to use absolute power to make the opponent surrender. But, What will happen if the opponent is stronger than yourself? The jet black sword of disaster was swung with terrifying power that could freeze a person's soul. Immediately, what crisscrossed the sky was a strange blue color. Rias and the others couldn't help but tremble. Although there was a barrier blocking them, the surrounding temperature still dropped to a desperate level at that moment. The holy sword in Zenovia's hand slashed forward firmly, even though the girl's eyebrows and hair tips were already covered with a light layer of frost. The swords collided, but no sound was made. Zenovia's palms trembled, and the girl's eyes widened in disbelief. The holy sword of destruction in his hand, an indestructible and domineering holy sword capable of destroying all existence in the world, was where a thin line appeared where the pitch-black monster sword came into contact. It was a beautiful ice blue pattern, and it was all over the entire body of the holy sword the moment it appeared. Holy Sword Excalibur. With a sarcastic smile on his face, Frostmourne disappeared from the palm of his hand. Immediately, Yayu turned around without looking at the lost girl. The so-called Holy Sword Excalibur is a sword of victory and a sword of oath, not a tool used by you to bully others. Artoria will definitely be very angry if she sees her weapon being used like this, right? Thinking of that awe-inspiring and inviolable girl who was a king, Yayu couldn't help but bring up a faint smile. Genova, what's wrong with you? As the barrier dissipated, Irina quickly leaned over and looked at her companion who was sitting there with a sword and a concerned look on her face like an idiot. Genova slowly walked to the front of Genova, but Irina covered her mouth in horror. In Zenovia's hand was the holy sword of destruction. At this moment, the blue lines turned into pitch black. They were no longer lines, but cracks. Countless pitch-black cracks spread along the huge blade of the holy sword like spider webs. Don't! Zenovia moaned in distress. No, the girl screamed miserably, and immediately the holy sword of destruction in her hand completely turned into a pile of powder. Excalibur was chopped into pieces. The holy sword of destruction, the most powerful holy sword that can destroy anything, was just like its name, it was completely destroyed. Fainted, Yayu turned his head in surprise. She looked like such a strong girl, but she didn't expect that she fainted just because the weapon was broken. Ah, it looks exactly like what she said. The so-called pride, strength, and momentum are all based on the holy sword Excalibur, and without the holy sword, they are nothing. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 250. You are so fragile. Are you fainting now? If you are going to challenge the demons of the younger generation at this level, it is better not to daydream. It would be better to meet the Holy Sea and hide in the arms of the elders as soon as possible. As a wielder of the Holy Sword, Excalibur is a partner as important as life. Tell me why Zenovia fainted, you bastard. Listening to Yayu's lazy words, Irina shed tears and looked at Yayu with hatred. Hey, why are you looking at me like that? It's not me who wants to destroy her Excalibur, it's just that she is too ignorant. Yayu turned around and looked at Irina with an extremely ironic smile. There is nothing in this world that I can't kill, if that's the case, who said that just now? Irina fell into silence and couldn't say a word for a moment. What Yayu said was not wrong at all. The reason why Zenovia ended up like this was entirely his own fault. Okay, if the old one doesn't go, the new one won't come. Didn't I give you a holy sword? It's just right for you unable to bear being stared at by Irina, Yayu said. The holy sword Yayu, which was taken from Shiroshigen, had no intention of keeping it and had already given it to the two girls. Do you think that the holy sword user Dabake can be used by anyone? If that were the case, there wouldn't be any adaptation plan for the holy sword. Different holy swords have different conditions for use, Yelena said angrily. Are there any conditions for the use of the holy sword? Why didn't I see it? It can be used casually in the hands of a devil like me, Yayu shrugged and said with a smile. Hey, that's because, because Irina didn't know what to say for a moment. The holy sword is very harsh on its users, which is why Kiba once had such cruel experiments on his body. But last night they all saw the holy sword being waved freely in the hands of the demon Yayu, without any repulsive reaction at all. Okay, let's let Miss Zenovia go to a comfortable place to rest for now. At this time, Rias came over and said, as for Kiba on the other side, she had also recovered. Looking at Zenovia, who was unconscious, there was no joy in his eyes that he would get revenge. In fact, Kiba had no hatred against Zenovia and the others, all he hated was the holy sword Excalibur. Looking at Zenovia, who fell into a coma after losing the holy sword, to a certain extent, they are also victims of the holy sword. Stained with the blood of so many innocent people, there is no need for this so-called holy sword to continue to exist. By the way, do you want Aisha to treat me? The treatment comes from the devil. I wonder if clerics like you will become corrupted. After looking at Aisha, who was walking over, and then at the unconscious Zenovia, Irina nodded. Slowly opening his eyes, Zenovia looked around in confusion, and subconsciously moved his hands to one side, but found nothing. That's right, my holy sword has been destroyed. It's ridiculous, the holy sword of destruction, which prides itself on being able to destroy everything, ends up destroying itself. Hey, Zenovia, you finally woke up. Just as Zenovia smiled bitterly, a familiar voice rang in his ears. Irina? Where are we? Looking at Irina walking in, Zenovia asked curiously. Oh, this is the department of the Supernatural Research Department, Irina said, and walked over with the food in her hand. You've been unconscious for several hours. You must be hungry. No, something to eat, Irina said as she placed the tray beside the bed. Humph, what are you doing here? Are these foods the devil's stuff? Zenovia said angrily. Although he said this, Zenovia's stomach made a very disappointing sound. Are you hungry? You haven't eaten since last night. Can't you bear it anymore? Irina said with a smile. It's not because of you that you are so stupid, but because someone else defrauded you of all your money for a painting. That's why we are in such a mess, with nothing to eat and no place to live, Zenovia said angrily. Well, don't talk about such things at this time. Irina seemed a little embarrassed when her companion said this, but Zenovia still turned her head away with dignity. I won't eat anyway. If I eat the devil's charity, I might become corrupted. Although her stomach growled with hunger, Zenovia still stubbornly refused what Irina put to her lips. Food. You really have some backbone. Will you become corrupted if you eat our food? Then will you become corrupted if you sleep on our bed? The door opened with a clatter, and Yayu walked in with raised brows. Humph. Seeing the culprit who destroyed his holy sword walking in, Zenovia snorted and rolled down the sheets. Zenovia's injuries were not serious. He just fainted due to the sadness caused by the destruction of the holy sword. He was also treated by Aisha, so it can be said that everything is back to normal except for being a little hungry. Hey, the club room you are staying in now is also a place for our demons, including the entire Kua Academy. Looking at Zenovia, who got out of bed without saying a word, Yayu raised his eyebrows again. Humph, when did Kua Academy become a place for your demons? You are just shameless demons hiding in the campus, Zenovia said disdainfully. Well, that's true, but you were treated by Aisha just now. This really belongs to the power of the devil. Yayu smiled and pulled Aisha over. Hey. Aisha was slightly startled, looking at Zenovia, who was stunned across from her. This. Zenovia, who didn't know what to say to retort at all, stood there at a loss. Lord, please forgive your devout believer, I will be saved by the devil. Zenovia simply made the sign of the cross on the spot and prayed. No, let's eat. Anyway, we have been treated by the devil. It doesn't matter if we eat some more devil's food. Our faith is so devout, the Lord will definitely forgive us, Irina said with a smile, and brought the plate to in front of Genova. I know, his stomach screamed again. Zenobia blushed and roughly snatched the plate from Irina's hand, then climbed onto the bed and got under the quilt. Isn't it much cuter like this now? How much better would it have been like this earlier? Looking at Zenobia, who looked extremely cute now and completely different from before, Yayu on the other side showed a somewhat funny expression, not only sighing in his heart. Look at how a good girl's character has become twisted. This holy sword is really a very harmful thing.